I know just from reading up on you that you spent some time in New York, a fair amount of time, kind of during the grind years when you were working on your career, building everything up. Does it feel different to be in New York now that you're kind of in a different place in your career?
Yeah, things have definitely changed. I mean, nowadays I don't really spend much time in New York anymore. I'm like on the road 80% of my time. So I rarely get to be home. And whenever I'm home, I don't really have much time to enjoy the city or to really look at leisure, because most of my time at home, I'm in the studio or spending time with family. So things have definitely changed. You know, back in the day, I used to go out in New York, like enjoy, go to the West Village, go to Williamsburg, play soccer, kind of go on runs in Central Park. It's a completely different kind of lifestyle for me these days, where my time off is mainly used to work on my label, to work on the administrative side of my career. And I get to spend time with my family as much as I can, because nowadays, you know, we're doing like shows pretty much every weekend all around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was noticing that. I mean, I've seen, certainly from an outsider's perspective, just, you know, more attention on you, more activity. It seems like you're always in a different place, always doing a million things. Do you feel like, you know, hearing you talk about like, oh, going to Williamsburg, playing some soccer, any of that, do you have any kind of release valve? Are you able to take time for yourself while all of this craziness is going on?
Back in the day, I used to be able to. Nowadays, it's not really. It's kind of a very rare occasion that I get to just take time off and kind of create leisure. I can still create leisure, but it has to be on the road. Like if I want to play a soccer game, I'll have to like coordinate like a game in, I don't know, Morocco or somewhere in France.
I guess what I'm saying, man, is like, as you get busier, of course, that's more stress and more, it's tiring to a certain extent. It's all good things. These are good problems to have. But I guess what I'm asking is like, you still feel good. You're taking care of yourself. You're dealing with the increased pressure in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally am at all times. You have to deal with it. That's the only way to survive.
Yeah, but even that thought is stressful. You know what I mean?
At times you have times of stress, but I always put aside like an hour just to go work out, just to do things outside of my career, outside of music, outside of performing, just to unwind. Apart from the hours I spend sleeping, I always put an hour or like 45 minutes aside just to take care of myself.
Yeah, that's
good. It's becoming more and more sparse. It's becoming less available, you know, because the activities are only going up and up.
Of course. And I mean, on the positive side of this too, it must feel great because, you know, I did some research. I was reading about your career. I mean, you've been working towards this point for a long time. So I'm sure a lot of this feels like a relief in some ways too, of like, great, we're finally doing these things that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Is that an aspect of it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been a project of mine for over 15 years. So to be able to succeed now is definitely a relief. It's definitely a moment of excitement. And it's something that I've been waiting for all my life, right? So I'm grateful for all of the activity. I'm grateful for all of the energy and the stress that it encompasses, even though that may not be pleasant at all times, but that's part of the game.
Dude, well, and I'm glad you said that because I talk about this a lot on this podcast, but trying to be grateful even for the stress and the problems of it. I think when in our best moments, when we're able to be grateful for a problem, that's when you are best positioned to succeed, to thrive in whatever endeavor you're doing. I mean, that's the perfect mindset if you can get there. Yeah,
absolutely. You have to be a lot of things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the people that don't like me, that comes with the territory. I'm grateful for the people that envy me. That's part of the game. That's what makes you stronger as a person, as a performer, as an artist, and as a businessman.
Have you, this was a question I wanted to ask you, and maybe we can sort of talk about how you grew up and what that environment was like through this question. But, what we've been talking about, you're doing a million different things. You're running a label, you're touring, you're making music, putting it out, collaborating with people, running around the globe, all of that. Have you always thought like that? Like, have you always been the super motivated person, the person who thrives when there's a lot of activity going on? Or did you kind of learn to be that person over time?
I've always been like that. I've always been extremely passionate, extremely excited to work. I've always had this kind of like personality from an early age. When I was in college, I had my own company. I used to throw my own parties. I used to organize events in New York while living in Providence, going to school.
I wanted to ask you about that only because I also went to Brown.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I don't think we were there at the same time because I graduated in 2004.
Okay.
But
2 years before me.
Yeah. But I was doing the same thing, man. I was DJing all over campus and, around the region in Providence a little bit. And there's a few DJs who went to Brown, but not a ton that are still doing it in this way. I mean, when you think of like your college DJing years and throwing parties and all that, was that the first time for you where you really started to see a path forward in like a professional sense, where you realized like maybe this could be more than just a passion?
I mean, the first gigs, they were well paid. So after being compensated, I was like, I could actually make a living out of it.
What kind of gigs? Like where at?
I played like some frat parties for some fraternities, and they were just like, they wanted like all the hits at the moment, like the pop hits, some EDM stuff. It was interesting, but from those shows, I was like, I saw potential, and I saw my capacity to be able to perform in public, to be able to connect people and kind of be in the moment. So I was like, this is actually something I could do for a living. This is something I could actually try and pursue on a full-time basis.
Because you also were studying math at the same time, right?
Correct.
So I mean, that's a bit of a left turn.
Yeah, I mean, I was studying math, because I wanted to be a banker. I really was passionate about mathematics as a whole. Nonetheless, I still had my passion for music. So I needed to fulfill both needs. And today, even though I'm an artist, a touring artist, I still have a passion for business, which is why I have a record label. I still have a passion for helping people, which is why I manage artists. Right? I still always need to fulfill not only the creative aspect of my life, but also the business and just the aspect of being a good person and contributing to other people's lives. So that's always been a passion of mine and personality traits from a very young age.
When you were young, am I right that you grew up, your whole childhood was in Haiti?
Correct, yeah. I lived in Haiti until I was 18. I used to come to the U.S. during summer breaks, but I did all of my high school in Haiti, in a French high school. Yeah.
And what was that, kind of broad strokes? Like if you think back to your childhood there, I'm trying to get a sense of just the environment. I've been to Haiti a few times and been lucky enough to play a couple shows there. And so I have like a very basic understanding, but I never lived there. And so I'm wondering for you, like, if you're a kid just running around, like say this is the movie montage of you as a kid, like what are we seeing you doing? What kind of music is playing in the background?
I'm playing Haitian music, Haitian compa. I'm playing carnival songs. Meanwhile, I'm also playing big African records that had success in Europe. I'm also playing, big hip hop records from the US. Haiti being like kind of in the central location of the world, right in the Caribbean, close to proximity to North America, close proximity to South America, influenced a lot by French culture. That makes the musical spectrum of the country and of all the young generation be extremely broad. So I was listening to a bit of everything in Haiti, and that really defined my interest in music, my interest in global culture and whatnot. Today, you know, the music that I'm making is heavily inspired by the stuff I used to listen to when I was a kid.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think probably now more than ever, right? Like listening to a lot of your recent releases, it seems like you're leaning in even more to those tendencies to kind of bring all of it together.
Yeah, nowadays, you know, the composing music is like a way for me to discover cultures, to bring different languages and different people from around the world together.
Well, and I wanted to ask you about that maybe through the lens of your own production and your work over the last few years, because I think, especially in more mainstream dance music, it's appealing for people to try to bring in different cultural influences. And we see a lot of people doing it in sort of like a surface level way of maybe just sampling a vocal from, you know, a culture they're not from, or, you know, some kind of instrument or that sort of thing. And it's a lot of that for me is very surface level. It doesn't really connect the way I think a lot of people want it to. And I think you're very good at pulling these influences together in not just a referential way, but in a way that sort of makes something culturally significant. And I don't know, I guess this is kind of, a broad question of, is this just a natural thing? Do you sort of instinctively know how to do that? Or is there a thought process when you're in the studio and you want to incorporate these different sounds of like, how do I do this in a way that, you know, pushes the ball forward and isn't just referential, if you know what I mean?
It's definitely not referential. It's definitely a way to push the ball forward. I took it on composing records, especially cultural records. I take some time to discover things about the culture. I take some time to discover the music around the culture. And I take some time to travel to these places to really present the record and push the record forward. So I do the work above and beyond, right? In the studio, outside of the studio, I go the full mile to really cover all aspects of producing the record, promoting the record, and putting it forward. A lot of artists, they'll sample like a song from one part of the world and they'll never go.
Yeah.
They'll make a sample and they don't even understand what the vocal is saying.
Yeah.
I try to connect, you know, with the region. I try to connect with the people. Before the release, I try to go and perform the song over there. I try to like really connect with the sample owner. And I try to understand, you know, what the record means. And that has made a big difference for me. From my track Premier Gao to my track C'était Johnnier, you know, I had a chance to go to Ivory Coast. I had the chance to perform in France and North Africa, all of the places where the record was really big, the original. Nowadays, I'm working on some big Brazilian records. I'm going to be working with a big Brazilian vocalist. I will take the time to actually go perform in Brazil and like connect with the locals and, you know, try to break the record in the market of relevance.
That's a really good point. And you're right. I didn't even think about that, but just looking at it holistically, not just in the studio, what is this record saying? What do I want it to mean? But actually saying, how do people react to it? And how does it fit into what's already happening in that culture? I mean, yeah, it's very smart, man. And it's something I think a lot of people are not doing right now. You know, we had this like big Latin house movement in the last couple of years that, you know, the original records that kind of blew up the sound were interesting. And then I'm just saying my own opinion here, but then so many people jumped on it and were doing exactly what you were saying of just sampling some vocals. I'm not sure if they even spoke Spanish or understood what the sound was. And it for me got very played out very quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's my take.
Yeah. Well, were you DJing while you were living in Haiti?
No, I started playing a year after moving to the US when I was at Brown. DJing in Haiti is something that's basically impossible because, I don't know, a kid from Haiti to purchase turntables and a computer to download music and to purchase like CDJs, that's quite pricey. So at the time, I didn't have the capacity to equip myself with all of this bells and whistles. Even when in college in the US, I didn't have the capacity to do so neither. A computer, I had a basic PC, but like that was cool, but like I didn't have Serato.
Yeah.
I didn't have CDJs. I didn't have turntables. It's just too pricey. So all I had was a controller.
Yeah. Started
off with a controller. Then after doing a few gigs and getting my cash up, I got suitable equipment. Like I think a year after, I got Serato. I got turntable techniques, which I sold to then get CDJs.
Yeah, so me too, man. I was right there with you.
things have changed over the course of time, but definitely I'm grateful for all of the steps, and it makes me appreciate to be where I am today.
Of course. And I think there's something to the idea of working with a limited tool set too that helps shape you as an artist and a performer in a way. I mean, just hearing you talk about, how it was hard to get equipment as a kid in Haiti. I remember, this is just my reference, the 2 or 3 days I spent there, but I went to, I don't remember which radio station, but we did a little radio thing to promote the show. And the DJ there on the station was just using a controller as well, like just a little thing. But watching him play, he was doing like a live mix on the radio, and watching him play, he was doing stuff with the controller I'd never seen that I didn't even know was possible. He was like just crushing it in this mix. And I don't know. I think about that moment sometimes of just, it was him working with what he had, and he ended up sounding better than a lot of DJs I knew who had a lot more, Yeah,
of course, all the time. That's how. What was the DJ's name? DJ BLOND.
I think it was. Do you know Val Mix?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think it was him. Shout out to Val Mix.
So it's not about the equipment. It's about who's behind the decks.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was Val Mix for sure. I haven't talked to him in so long, but man, he was super nice to us, man. I don't know. Do you know him?
I remember. I don't know him personally, but he used to play all the big parties. He used to play on the radio. His mixes would always come, and he used to promote himself. So yeah, I remember his name for sure.
Yeah.
It's been some time. I don't know. What is he up to these days?
I don't really know either. It's been probably 10 years since I talked to him, but we follow each other, so I see him around. I feel like maybe he moved to Miami or New York for a while. I'm not sure if he's still there, but he's still DJing. I see him posting up content all the time.
That's dope.
Yeah, man. I mean,
good for him.
Absolutely, dude. So in Haiti, it makes me want to ask you, like, hearing all these different sounds, were you musical? Were you playing instruments or anything?
No. It was not something that's big in Haitian culture, like for Haitian families.
Was there any music in your family? Like any
parent? No. Most people are like, okay, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer, or I don't know, an engineer, better yet.
But not even professionally, like even just, if your mom
there were people that loved, my mother loved music. She was always, but to be a profession, it's not really the norm among some Haitian families. Everybody wants to take the more traditional academic route, which is good, but I think there was an interest for me to play instruments, but I never had really the opportunity. It was a bit challenging at the time when I was growing up because there was quite some insecurity. It was difficult to move around. I think we had like a lot of political turmoil, like embargoes. It was challenging, so I wasn't able to attend piano lessons or anything of the sort. I think my parents, they had me do karate, not music.
Right. A little more practical, yeah.
Yeah, karate. Then they tried to have me do tennis. I didn't like neither until they had me do soccer. They had me do basketball, tennis, And then when I did soccer, I fell in love with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which sounds like that continues to this day. You're still playing a little soccer.
Yeah. I still love to play. I love to, but unfortunately, the knees are getting like.
Man, you and me both, brother. Yeah.
A bit more now to be able to play ball the way I used to.
Yeah. It's happening, man. It's definitely happening. Well, how did your parents react? Just out of curiosity. I mean, once you really started going down this path and getting serious about music.
They were supportive the entire time, even though they didn't put me in music school or anything of the sort. They were very supportive when I said I want to be a DJ, I want to make a career out of this. They were like, if this is what makes you happy, you're able to sustain yourself financially, you're able to create and kind of like be in your own place, go for it.
Well, that's great, man. Yeah, that's nice to hear, because I think a lot of people in those situations don't have the same story, right? Like if times are a little tough and if there's sort of established path you're supposed to follow, yeah, not everyone's parents are that understanding. So that's nice to hear.
Yeah, it was a very pleasant. Generally, my parents are very supportive. I mean, I'm sure if I had told them I wanted to play the piano and I wanted to learn, probably could have helped. We had a piano at home, but it was just never something that they personally had done. So most of the time they were like, okay, you should do karate, you should do basketball, like things that are a bit more practical and that are more in trend.
So, you as a kid growing up there, you have these interests, you're also interested in math and business, you're already sort of thinking about what to do with this. How did you land at Brown? Hey,
man, every kid from Haiti, their dream is to go to big universities, to take things internationally, to progress in life. So that was always a dream of mine, to be able to go to the US to study. A lot of amazing colleges were on my radar list, Brown being one of them. It's a prestigious university known around the world, even in Haiti.
Yeah. Well, you must have been a good student then to be able to apply to those places.
I did my best, especially towards the end, to try to get their attention.
Yeah, get it up a little bit, yeah.
But I was lucky enough to be accepted, and I had a good time over there.
What'd you think of Providence?
I don't like that city. I think it's a bit too slow for me. I think it's a good student city.
Yeah.
If you're trying to study, if you're trying to do your work, it's the best, because there's very little distraction, maybe like a handful of bars and clubs. Yeah. So that's perfect. If you live in a city like New York, you're easily tempted by nightlife, entertainment. There's way too much. You're going to be swallowed.
Yeah.
And you will definitely never finish your studies. So for me, I think Providence was good, because if you want to focus, you can quite easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And did you move to New York right after Providence, once you were done with school?
Yeah, right after school, I was like, okay, I was offered a job in upstate New York, but I was like, there's no way, no shot. Upstate New York. After living in Providence, I need to be in the city, because I used to go to the city almost every weekend to attend my shows, to perform. So yeah, it was the most obvious move.
What was the scene in New York like when you first got there, when you first started living there? Like what kind of, if you were going out, where were you going? Who were you seeing? What was playing? What was the scene like at the time?
I mean, when I first started, it depended. When I first started going to New York while I was in college, there was this club called Club Touch, which was really big at the time. Obviously, Marquee. All the clubs on 27th Street were really big. That used to be there was a club called Pink Elephant.
Oh, yeah.
There were a lot of amazing locations. Mansion. Those were really trending when I was in college. But when I finished college, those were all gone.
Yeah.
Because after 2-3 years, these places became quite irrelevant.
That's New York for you, man. Yeah.
And my brand, my event planning company, what my movement, my music, that's what was relevant at the time. So I used to program shows every Friday at this rooftop called Sky Room. And that was the spot. when I finished college. So I was lucky enough, when I finished university around 2010, 2012, this kind of period, the places where I was doing parties were the best for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, so you already had a bit of a place to land. You were already active,
I had already done the grind. I had taken like a year sabbatical just to like get familiar with the city, to attend a lot of shows. I was like a promoter to begin with, just to meet people, to like get acquainted with the scene. And from there, I became like, okay, I'm going to throw my own parties, and actually I'm going to DJ my own parties. And it has escalated to the point where other bigger clubs took notice of what I was doing, and they were like, hey, why don't you come play at our club? And from there was history. But it's been a lot of years of grinding.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those classic things where probably there's a lot of people who are just hearing about you in the last few years, right? But then it's something I like to talk about a lot, where it's, you have to work for like, a decade almost, even to get to that point where people are like, hey, where did this guy come from?
And I've been at it for a really long time. People used to doubt me, or like, I just did it on my own.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Like you say, people used to doubt you. You have been doing this for a long time, and the persistence and the consistency, I think, is impressive. It's not something that everyone is able to do. Was like back in the day, if you think about you back then, maybe not everybody believed in you. Not everything was going exactly the way you wanted it to go all the time. How were you able to sort of maintain and stay on course and, keep your eyes on the prize, so to speak?
Just passion, man. Perseverance. Just also my personality and my cultural background. Being in Haiti and thinking about a potential future that's not guaranteed, and being able to look ahead, you kind of develop this sense that you must make it. You must keep your eyes on the prize at all times. Haiti, has built a lot of my character. As in many countries in the Caribbean, many countries in South America, or generally Africa, where things are challenging, the resources, the economical situation, the political situation is not favorable. As a youngster, you grow to develop the necessity and the need to really stay focused and to aim for a goal and not to ever give up, because that's the only thing you have. It's your dream.
Yeah, there's less options, right? Like it's not really an option to give it up.
There are no options.
Right. Yeah.
It's either you dream and you keep going, or you might as well just stop, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that makes total sense, man. I think for me, the thing that's cool, though, hearing you talk about this is that it doesn't, to me, sound like you ever really lost the joy of it while you were doing it. Because, if you had to get serious about this stuff and get serious about your dream from a young age, there's not a lot of other options. Again, I guess that's going back to the stress we were talking about earlier, but I don't know, man, listening to your music, hearing you talk about what you do right now, like I can tell there's still the joy of it, the enthusiasm for it,
No, there definitely is. I chose a path and I chose a dream that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you made a good choice. That's true.
But I can tell you that, this tenacity and this willingness to just have like a tunnel vision is mandatory for survival in a third world unfavorable country like Haiti, like African country, South American country, like let's say Venezuela, like countries that are going through economical and political turmoil. The youth, they have to be plugged in and have tunnel vision on their dream. That's the only survival.
Yeah.
The only way to survive. Like in places like Algeria, Zimbabwe, it's not easy, So if you're a youngster and you want to do something in your life, it's you against the world, man. Back against the world.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And for you, I mean, I think another part of that, we mentioned it earlier, is your production. And I wanted to ask you, in this journey when did you start learning production? When did you start making the music yourself as well as DJing, throwing the parties and all that?
I started making music like around actively professionally in 2014. I released my first record. Then I started making music. I got my first, computer. I got Ableton 2012. Because that's when I had finished college. That's when I had enough gigs to be able to purchase Ableton.
Right.
Because I would never, buy a pirated version or book a pirated version of the program on my laptop, because that was the only laptop I had to work and to do my schooling. So I was like, you know what? After I'm done, I'll just purchase a copy. So I purchased a copy of Ableton. I purchased a bunch of plugins. I purchased everything. It's quite expensive, but I worked to be able to do it.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, 2012, I purchased all this stuff and I started working, man. Not thinking about it, that's like the most unconventional, like the least common way, because everybody's cracking programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the kids just crack, They use pirated versions of all the plugins, of all the DAWs and everything. But me, I was like, listen, man, I don't have a choice. I want to purchase it. So yeah, I made it quite an investment, like $5,000.
Yeah, it's expensive. And I mean, then from there, just learning all that, it's a steep learning curve after that too.
Yeah, and then I went to a bunch of seminars, and I went to this program called DubSpot.
Oh yeah, which
was also expensive. So I spent like $30,000 from the jump on my music career, and this is all self-funded.
Right.
And at the time, the bookings were like $500 a show.
Yeah, that's a lot of $500 gigs to get there.
But I was hustling. I was playing 7 times a week.
Man, I've been there. Okay, let me ask you though.
I did a summer playing 7 times in 5 days per week.
Yeah, man.
So every Thursday I used to play 2 shows. Every Friday I used to play 2 shows. And then additional to that, I used to play like Tuesday and Wednesday, something like that.
I had a couple of years, I used to live in Chicago, and I had a couple of years in Chicago when I was coming up that I was kind of doing that as well. Is there any part of that you miss now? Because I look back on it. No. But hear me out, because I wouldn't want to go back to that at all, 0%. But there's something about, maybe it's just like nostalgia or like the romance of thinking about that I went through it. But there was something about it while I was doing it. There was just nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Like
No.
I don't know.
I play sometimes 7 days a week.
Of course.
But I play 1 hour, 2 hour sets, 2 hour sets maximum. I used to play 7 days a week, 5 hour sets per show. Like we're talking about like Thursday, I used to play like an after work party from 7 to 12 and then, or like 7 to 11, 4 hours, then go run to the club, play 12 to 4. That's 8 hours of performing.
Yeah, you're going to the office.
And on top of that, performing music that you didn't necessarily like, because at the time I was not like a performer playing. I was a DJ.
Yeah.
You have to play open format. You got to play what the people want to listen to. I had a signature, of course, but I had to cater to the audience. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a gig.
Yeah.
So trust me, it was. It wasn't. Sometimes it was a little bit annoying. And back then, there was no thing like earplugs. Nah. There was no such thing as like a healthy DJ.
Yeah.
We were drinking, man, drinking, partying, like DJing. And you could feel it on your bones, man. After the weekend, you were like, man, I feel like, yeah, but I did it. I did that for like 3 months. It was rough, man. I gained some weight. I was like really tired, but.
Of course, man. But yeah, I don't know. There is, even if you don't look back on it fondly, I think that does build character. You know what I mean? Like now you show up to a gig and something's messed up, at least for me, like if I show up to a gig tomorrow and there's some problem, I can be very chill and relaxed about it because I've definitely seen worse, no matter what it is,
Yeah, you've seen worse, you've been in worse conditions. So yeah, now, some DJs are like, wow, this is rough. But yeah, hey man, I'm doing like a show a day, a country a day. It's no problem.
Yeah.
Content of the day, get the hang of it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in that grind, like as you're building it up, just, really making it work for yourself. Were there any big moments that changed something for you that took you to another level? Or has it been kind of this gradual build to get to where we are now?
It's been a gradual build until I released like some big tracks like Premier Gao. I had the Night Freak remix that put me really on the map. Then, I did City with Blondish. That was like another big song for me. And, after these two records, things just changed. We had like booking requests internationally. The fees changed, there was just like a lot of changes at that moment.
Was there something different about those records? Did they just hit at the right time?
Yeah, they hit at the right time. They hit at the right time, and also they were very unique. It was like a brand new genre for me, and people were just coming out of the pandemic. They were just coming out of like the whole Tulum frenzy. So the Afro House was kind of like bubbling, coming up. And I just released those records, and they were like defining records for the genre. Today, a lot of young producers are making songs, and I can say, we constitute a lot of the inspiration.
Yeah, dude, 100%. I mean, like, how did you, talking about, people like Blondish or even somebody like Tiesto, who I read was like an inspiration early, who you ended up, linking up with much later in your career?
Yeah, at Tomorrowland.
Yeah. Like any of those people, it doesn't have to be them specifically, but like, how did that happen? Like, how did you sort of get deeper into the community of DJs over time?
Grind, brother. Grind.
Yeah.
There's only one way. There's only one way to make it. You got to grind until you can. Yeah, Blondish, it took me like a year to really get her attention. First, I released on her label. Then I went to like 3-4 shows. I was like, hey, hello. You were like, what? And it took some time, but after that she was like, okay, oh, you're cool, man. And she was like, okay, maybe I'll take a listen to your record. And we finally made the record. But all of these things, this is perseverance, man. With the common denominator for all items are perseverance. Common denominator is perseverance, consistency.
Would you also say, I feel like though there's another element in that where it's also like a human connection, because I think a lot of young DJs out there, you get so crazy about like, how do I get people to listen to my music? How do I make these connections? And I think a lot of times, at least I've had this experience with young producers, like you kind of jump the gun. You don't establish the human relationship first.
It's really challenging, man. Listen, man, I'm telling you, bro, it's very, very difficult because the first time at Diplo, it was at Zamna, and he was like, hey, like I was trying to talk to him and trying to connect with him. I was like, hey, man, I'm from Haiti. Like, I love your music. How's the next record? How are you feeling about your album? And he's like, hey, man, is this an interview? So he was not really...
I can see him saying that, yeah.
But he was like, actually, you're from Haiti. That's cool. Michael Boyer, like, I know this producer. And I'm like, yeah, I know him. And it took one time to show up. Then the second time I tried to link up with him and show up, but he had too many people around him. It was impossible to connect. Then the third time, he was like, hey, man. Then again, we saw each other, so you kind of have to you can't connect with people one time and go.
Yeah.
You got to make the effort like 5 times. You got to do trips. You got to go to places, just not because you have a booking, just you go to places just to network, just to connect.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, maybe that's a good way, if we want to start bringing it home here, to talk about your label and to talk about, you now being in that position and people trying to get to you and establish a relationship with you.
People can get to me. It's not difficult. It's not difficult to get.
Well, I mean, I guess what I'm looking for here is, when you're checking out somebody else's music or an artist you might want to work with, what stands out to you? Are there common good or bad things you see artists doing?
Yeah, I think, the way they communicate their level of patience, really, really important. You have to be patient. If you want to break through in this industry, do not rush. Pick a target, pick a person you want to work with, and just take the time to nurture the relationship. It's not about how fast you can go. It's not about, having 10 options. If you want to work with a label or with someone, just try to understand them. Try to meet, their needs. Try to understand. Try to pinpoint what they're passionate about, and feed the passion. If they like a certain type of music, try to really customize your production to meet XYZ label. Try and by obviously keeping your identity, but it's important to, if you're making Afro house and you want to send this music to Fisher, that's not going to work.
Right.
If you're making tech house and you want to send the music to Black Coffee, it doesn't matter how many times. So try to customize your record to who you're sending it to. Try to take the time to really understand what the project of the artist is. Try and attend the shows. Try and meet the artist. Try and message the artist on a personal level. It's going to be okay.
That's a great message, man. I mean, with your label, is there anything in particular you're really excited about, a track or a party or an artist you're working with that we should talk about?
Yeah, I'm excited about all the artists because in addition to my label, we also have a management arm. So we're currently managing some amazing artists, Night Freak, Arime, Avo, Mo Black, QT High, and we're signing some brand new artists. So all of them have amazing records coming up, not just on my label, also on other people's labels. In terms of records that we're excited about, I'm really excited about a track called Dana Dana. That's going to be coming out in March. It's a collaboration between Avo and an artist called Guapo. Both of them are from Portugal, and they're sampling a big North African, Algerian vocal.
Oh, cool. That's awesome, man. And how about yourself as far as what people should be looking out for, or what you're excited about for your own project?
Yeah, I have a track called Hustler that's coming out. I'm really excited about it. It's a collaboration with Emmanuel Jal. And I have 20 other records, man. I don't know when they're going to come out. What's next? We're just going step by step and seeing how things roll.
Of course, man. I mean, I'm never worried that you're not going to be active in one way or another. You know what I mean? I don't think that's the worry.
I mean, listen, man, February 15th is coming up. The next record, I don't know when it's going to come out. So, but my manager's being a bit difficult with me in terms of he doesn't want me to release too many records, not to self-compete with my music, to kind of give it time to breathe. So it's a little bit challenging.
Yeah, I mean, that's a classic thing, man. I'm actually glad you said that because that's something I was just talking to somebody else about that too. You got to balance the creative with the business, and sometimes they don't want the same thing, Yeah. It's tough. Well, let me to really start wrapping this up. I ask this question a lot. There's no wrong answer. What's the most fun part of what you're doing right now? What are you most excited to do when you get up?
The most fun is to perform, to travel, to meet, people from all over the world, and to see the reactions on the dance floor for the new records that I'm producing, the new records that we're releasing on the label, and that other amazing producers are sending me. That's the most fun part.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense, man. That's the discovery of it, the community of it. I feel like that's been a theme in this whole conversation.
Yeah, for me, community, culture, connecting people, it's really, that's where it's at for me.
Have you, because I know you travel all over the world, anywhere recently that really blew your socks off, that maybe surprised you in a way?
Yeah, I say this a lot. I really enjoyed my show in Beirut. I really enjoyed my show in Morocco. Really enjoyed my show, the recent show in Morocco.
What was it about those places?
It's the people, man. It's the Moroccans. They just are very passionate. They love to dance. They love music. I really love my show in France that we did recently because it's a very international. London was really good. I've been blessed, man. I've done a lot of amazing shows. I've met a lot of amazing people. I had the chance to play in Brazil. The energy there is also very good. So it's been a blessing all around.
Well, hey, man, I love that. And I like what you're doing. I'm stoked to see what you do with it now that you've arrived in a certain way. Does it feel that way? Do you feel finally?
Yeah, I mean, somewhat, but I still have a long way to go. I still, because the more you progress, the more you want to keep going, the more aspirations you have. Now we've reached level 1. Now we want to go, we reached level 5. Now we want to go to level 20.
Yeah, I understand completely.
It gets tougher to pass from level 5 to level 6, then level 7. It's tougher and tougher and tougher.
Yeah, it's not an equal scale. I know exactly what you mean. But hey, man, this has been great. I'll ask the last question here because I want to respect your time. It's a very random access memory, kind of the first thing you think of kind of question. Just looking for a memory from your life, a moment from your life. It could be from any time, could be last week, it could be when you were a kid. Doesn't matter, but just a memory where you had an experience with music that really left an impression on you. Maybe something that you just think about from time to time. It doesn't have to be a good story. There's no wrong answer.
I have a few. I mean, one time I remember being in Haiti and there was a piano and there was like a little book for kids on how to play chords or whatever. And I remember watching, the notes to play based on what was in the book. And I remember writing a melody. That was my only interaction with the piano. But that just marked me. I was like, an instrument can sing? And that, I was a kid, man. And after that, I never played, I never was patient enough to do it. But I was like, my parents were calling me, hey, we got to go. You got to go to school. You got to go. And then I left. But I remember that vividly.
Man, that's interesting because that's, not only I love an instrument can sing, but it's, the instrument can sing what you were hearing in your head, Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my, I recognize this melody. And I was like, wow, this is like, that really marked me. And obviously there were more modern experiences where, when I decided I want to become a DJ, when I saw Armin van Buuren play in Brooklyn with Jess, she was singing live. I was like, wow, this guy is just like controlling a massive crowd on top of a DJ booth. This is amazing. Then I saw Tiesto and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. Yeah. So that weekend really marked my life.
Oh, that was all in one weekend? You saw both of them?
Yeah, or maybe 2 weeks apart. Just there's this company called Made Events in New York.
I know
they always put on shows. Yeah, so they had Tiesto, Armin van Buuren, Paul Van Dyk all happening at the same time. Tiesto was doing a tour called Elements of Life. Yeah. And he had a track with Christian Burns called some track with Christian Burns, Break My Fall. And I used to, that was like, quite some time ago, man.
Have you ever told them that story? Do they know that?
18 years ago. I mean, nowadays I'm working with an affiliate of Made Events. I've worked with Made Events. I played Electric Zoo. That's Made Events. Met Tiesto.
I meant like Tiesto or Armin van Buuren.
Yeah, I saw Tiesto. I told him. He knows. But he was funny. Like the first time I met him, he looked at me. He's like, "Hey, man, are you Francis? I know a song that goes like na 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 na." And I'm like, yo, this guy. I was really surprised, because. Man, Tiesto knows the melody of a song that I produced.
Right.
It was just, I was like confused.
I mean, that's cool though, because that to me at least shows that you can be, who's bigger than Tiesto? Like you can have a Tiesto career and still be just as excited about new music and just as connected.
Yeah.
Like that's a cool story.
I mean, we released 2 records in his label, but still, man, the guy's like the OG.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, hey, man, this has been great. Anything else you want to get out there before we sign off here?
That's about it, man. Thank you for your time, bro.
Beautiful.
I hope to be in touch.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
All right.
All right, man. Take care. Have a good one.
Yeah, hope to see you soon, man.
You too. Peace.
Bye.